Endurance is a staple stat in the Fallout franchise, with it often correlated with how much health you have, your resistances, your survival abilities, and in the more recent Fallout games, how long you can sprint without actually getting tired. So I wanted to put together a tier list showcasing the best perks and the worst perks in Fallout 76 in the endurance tree. So with all that being said, let's find out which perks are heroes and which ones are zeros. The first perk on the list is Adamantium Skeleton. This perk at maximum rank makes your limbs completely immune to being damaged, meaning you can never be crippled. This is a perk useful for melee players who are looking to avoid the stagger from broken limbs. I will place this perk in the B tier since broken limbs can be repaired using stim packs, which are readily available in the game. All Night Long, the next perk, reduces your hunger and thirst meter growth by 60% at max rank. I cannot give this perk any higher than D tier. It's just a perk that is basically useless. You do not need this. I would not invest any points into this. Aquaboy is one of my all-time favorite perks, especially in Fallout 4. However, in Fallout 76 there's not as much water as there is in Fallout 4, but the perk still does come in handy when having to swim across large bodies of water. In this clip you can see I'm taking 19 rads per second in this water. However, when you put on Aquaboy, it goes all the way down to 0. It only has one rank, so I can justify picking this perk. However, many other people wouldn't, so I could place it comfortably at a C tier. Cannibal is another iconic perk from the Fallout franchise. It essentially allows you to eat humans, ghouls, super mutants, scorched, mole miners, or other kind of corpses in the wasteland, and it will give you health in return. While in other Fallout games this perk would greatly impact your karma rating, in this game, Fallout 76, it does not impact that at all as it's not a system in the game. I was never interested in the Cannibal perk in any of the Fallout games. However, when testing it in Fallout 76, I was pleasantly surprised how much health you actually got back using this perk. It gives you 150 health for eating a corpse. This is a pretty massive amount. It can be a complete game changer for lower level players, as you wouldn't have to rely on your medical supplies and you could just eat the corpses of the enemies you're killing, basically restoring almost your entire health bar and giving you very little rads in return. So with all this being said, I can give Cannibal a comfortable A tier rating, as I really do believe this is a really good perk. Chem Friend is a very easy perk to understand. It just doubles how long any chem you take lasts. Where this perk truly shines is its ability to make berry mentats last twice as long. Berry mentats are an item that many people love in this game as they give you more XP for every kill. I don't have much to say about Chem Resistant. It's just a perk I really don't think is great at all. Being addicted to chems in Fallout 76 isn't really a problem. You can get an addictol very easily. I can't give this perk any higher than D tier just because of the availability of addictol. Coalnut is a fantastic perk that triples the beneficial effects of Nuka-Cola products. This perk not only makes Nuka-Cola a great healing item, but also a very good support item. Looking at the different options for Nuka-Cola products, we have Nuka-Cola Cherry giving you plus 300 HP and 75 action points. It makes regular Nuka-Colas give you 120 HP as well as plus 30 AP. Nuka-Cola Cranberries give you plus 6% XP bonuses. Nuka-Cola Dark giving you a minus 1 perception but a plus 3 strength and endurance. Nuka-Cola Orange giving you 450 HP and a whopping 150 AP, as well as a 75% rad resist bonus. Nuka-Cola Quantum's giving you a massive 600 HP as well as 300 AP, making it one of the best healing items in the entire game. And Nuka-Cola Grape giving you plus 450 HP, 150 AP, and minus 1200 rads. So I can comfortably give Coalnut our first S tier of the video. While I do like the way Dromedary's art is portrayed on the actual perk card itself, I find it quite hilarious. I can't get his perk any higher than D tier, just because of the amount of ways you can quench your thirst in Fallout 76. It doesn't make any sense to invest 3 of your 15 possible points into a perk like this that essentially doesn't really give you any benefits. Ah yes, Fireproof, the other S tier perk in Endurance. This perk lets you take 45% less damage from explosions and flame attacks at max rank. This perk is fantastic and it should be on everyone's build. At the start of this clip you can see my health is around 10%, and this was from taking damage from 1 plasma grenade. However, after I heal myself up and throw a second plasma grenade, it only does around maybe 20% of my full health. This perk is fantastic and I can't give it any lower than S tier. Moving on to Ghoulish, this perk allows you to regenerate health on radiation damage. At tier 3, this is kind of insane, I'm not even gonna lie. So to demonstrate the abilities of this perk, I'm gonna go ahead and round up a bunch of ghouls at White Springs, so 1 second. Now after letting them hit me, of course I don't have Adamantium Skeleton so my bones are breaking left and right, but look at how ridiculous the healing is from this perk. It's just insanity. This perk basically turns you into a god against ghouls, making it very unlikely that you'll actually die to them, as you're not going to be sitting here getting swiped at by 100 ghouls and you're just not going to do anything about it. Ghoulish is a fantastic perk, another back-to-back S tier option in the endurance tree. I cannot give it any lower than that. This perk is fantastic. Not to mention you can also heal yourself using other radiation-based items like the toxic goo from Westtech. Our next perk is Good Doggy. This triples the amount of beneficial effects you get from eating dog food. Of course, the first item of dog food that comes to mind is canned dog food. I don't know if it's the only one in the game. Probably. But this bumps it up from an item that heals 25 HP to an item that heals 75 HP. And it also benefits from the carnivore effect, which means it heals 150 HP if you're a carnivore, making this a fantastic option for healing yourself in the early game. So, because of those reasons, I could give the perk a solid B tier rating, as it's a perk that falls off in the late game, but is pretty good in the early game. Homebody, our next perk, I cannot give any lower than an S tier rating. This perk is really, really good, and I highly advise anybody building into the endurance tree use this perk. No, I'm just kidding, I can't get this any higher than a D tier. It's not that the perk doesn't work, it's just that there's no need for this. Why would I need to heal any of my limbs or my HP when I'm in my camp or workshop? Hydrofix, another one of our D tier perks in the endurance tree. I don't have much to say about this. It just makes it to where chems don't generate thirst, and I just cannot recommend this to anybody for the 2 points. It's just not worth it. It's a D tier perk, it needs a buff badly. I don't know what they could do to this, but just avoid this at all costs. Our first perk to experience some of the endurance buffs is Iron Stomach. This perk now increases your DR based on your endurance, while not diseased. Starting at 1 endurance, I had 18 damage resistance with this perk on, and it went up by increments of between 14 and 16% as I went and added more points to my endurance. And it maxed out at 61 DR at 15 endurance. While I'm not exactly a fan of DR in Fallout 76, I'll still give this perk an A tier rating, just because those who actually build into endurance and go beyond the 15 points might be able to benefit pretty greatly from this perk. Ironclad at its max rank is a perk that gives you plus 50 damage resistance to energy and ballistic damage. However, it requires 5 points of investment, making this in my opinion a D tier perk, especially when compared to Iron Stomach, the recently buffed perk that gives you a higher amount of damage resistance for only 1 point of investment. Another fan favorite and returning perk from the previous Fallout games, Lead Belly, reduces how much radiation damage you take from eating and drinking. However, at max rank it completely nullifies any radiation damage from eating and drinking. This is a solid perk for anybody who doesn't want to be irradiated and they want to keep their food and drink meters up, so I would give it a C tier. Lifegiver at its max rank gives you plus 45% maximum HP. However, this does not require 3 points but 4 points of investment. Lifegiver is a great perk as it does allow bloody players and low health builds to have more health than they otherwise would at that 20%. However, upon leaving a server and joining another one, you'll have to reapply radiation damage to get back into that nerd rage threshold. This is something that really does annoy me, but it's still a great perk, so I'd give it an S tier rating. But for me personally, I don't really use it because of that interaction, but I'm not going to take away from how good the perk actually is. Another perk that desperately needs a buff, Munchy Resistance. At max rank, chems no longer induce hunger. What were they thinking when they made this? D tier, avoid this, don't use this perk. Alright, Natural Resistance is another perk that recently got a buff, allowing it to give you increased non-physical resistance based on your endurance. So similar to Iron Stomach, this perk gives you resistance based on your endurance, however it gives you non-physical resistance. This is things like fire, poison, or chill. And again, this perk gave me around 14 to 16% resistance based on my endurance. So depending on how much endurance you have and how much you've built into that stat, you could potentially get yourself a lot of those resistances. The only one on there that I particularly think would be helpful is the poison resistance, as there's not many options that give you the ability to resist poison. The only option I could think of that comes to mind is Funky Duds, I believe it's called, which is a legendary perk that gives you around 200, I want to say. For those that actually do build into endurance, I think this perk is a solid A tier option, as it could potentially allow you to forego having to use a legendary perk card. Noctural Fortitude is a perk that at max rank gives you plus 40 max health between the hours of 6 PM and 6 AM. This is a perk that I could give, I'll give it a B tier rating, just because it does give you about the same amount of HP as Lifegiver. However, it's only active for half the amount of time. Photosynthetic, our next perk, allows you to regenerate health between the hours of 6 AM and 6 PM. This is another perk that I'll give a B tier rating just because it can be helpful in some situations. For lower level players, maybe you can benefit from this more. But for players who want to maximize their health regen, this does have some potential. I am not sure if this works in combat. If it does, that could be helpful, but most of these kind of improved health regeneration effects don't usually work in combat. So I'll give it a B tier as it'll avoid you from having to heal yourself periodically. Professional Drinker I will give a C tier rating, as it's a perk I don't think is necessary, again because addiction is not a problem in Fallout 76. There's plenty of ways to get your addictions cured, but there are some builds that do focus on drinking alcohol, so for those reasons I'll give it a C tier rating. Radicool will give you a maximum of +5 strength based on your radiation for 1 point of investment. The reason I use this perk as a blade build is that it gives you +25 carry weight with the +5 strength, making it a no-brainer choice for 1 point of investment. Not to mention the massive bonuses perk can give you for 1 point of investment to melee builds. It's just an all-around great perk. However, I do recognize that not everybody plays a low health build that gets their health with radiation, so for those reasons I'll put it in the A tier. Our next perk, Rad Resistance, I will give a B tier. The reason for this is that it is kind of a heavy investment at 4 points, but it does give you +40 Rad Resistance, and there's not too many ways to get that outside of things like Secret Service armor or the legendary perk that gives you +200. So if you're looking for a build that revolves around radiation resistance, this is a perk you're going to want, so I'll give it a B tier. Rejuvenated is a perk that I've been using a lot more of recently. At max rank you gain even better benefits of being fully fed and fully hydrated. These effects are actually quite substantial, even at their base, but with this perk on, it dials it to 11. So going ahead and showing you the fully fed benefits without the perk, you get +1 strength, +35 HP, and +35% disease resistance. While fully hydrated gives you +35% AP regen, +1 endurance, and +35% disease resistance. However, with Rejuvenated equipped, these 35% go to 45%, which is a pretty substantial increase. If you think about it, +10% HP is pretty significant. +10% AP regen is another huge one, as that's essentially equipping 2 extra pieces of powered legendary armor, or drinking another base company tea. So because of these benefits and it only costing you 2 points, I give this an S tier rating, as it can make other perks in the game kind of irrelevant just by the benefits it gives you alone. Our next perk, Revenant, gives you a +50% damage bonus for 2 minutes when a player revives you. However, you can go around this by reviving yourself using Lifesaver's armor or using a scout banner. This perk is a must for players who want to do solo bossing. However, for everyone else in the game, I really can't give this any higher than a C tier, as it's not even active for longer than 2 minutes, and the amount of times you can revive yourself even with a scout banner is every 5 minutes. This perk's uptime is just not great for anyone doing something outside of bossing, so I can't get it any higher than a C tier. Slow Metabolizer is a perk that makes your food 75% more effective at filling your hunger meter, making this perk quite a solid option for those who want to keep their meters full at all times. While food itself isn't necessarily hard to come by, I do know it is kind of painstaking to hunt down the food you need to fill those meters, especially if you're a herbivore player, so for those reasons I can give it a B tier rating. Solar Powered is another one of those perks that only work for half the day. However, this one gives you +3 strength and endurance between the hours of 6 AM and 6 PM. With an investment of 3 points, I can't give this perk any higher than C tier. The other perks like this having a 2 tier investment is just a lot easier to work around, but a 3 tier investment for +3 strength and endurance for half of the day, I just can't give that any higher than C tier. Our next perk is Sunkissed. This perk allows you to quickly regen radiation damage between the hours of 6 AM and 6 PM. I don't know why there are so many perks in the endurance tree that only work for half of the day, but this is another one of those 2-point investment ones. The What Rad's legendary perk card allows you to get this same benefit on top of getting +200 rad resistance. So any player who doesn't like radiation damage is probably going to have that, which would make this perk kind of redundant. And so for those reasons, I can't give it any higher than C tier. Thirst Quencher is another perk that was recently buffed. It now increases your maximum action points based on the amount of endurance you have. The AP increase appears to be 5% per point of endurance. I tested this by increasing my endurance by 1 point and seeing the percent change of my maximum amount of AP. This perk without a doubt is the best perk in endurance, as it only requires 1 point of investment, making it very easy to fit onto any build. S tier. S tier all day long. If you do not have this perk, you need to go get it and try it out. The last perk in the endurance tree also happens to be another perk that was buffed alongside the others. It's Vaccinated. This perk increases your disease resistance based on your endurance, making it a solid option for people who don't want to have a bunch of disease cures stacked on them. However, for more invested players, I can't really justify using this perk too much, but for only 1 point of investment, it's not too bad of an option. So for those reasons, I'll place it in the B tier, as it does have its uses and it's only 1 point of investment that actually does make a difference in your day-to-day gameplay. With the buffs that several endurance perks got, some of them definitely got a lot more useful, with one even going from a D tier all the way to an S tier perk. So I hope Bethesda finds some way to buff these D tier perks and make them more usable, as in their current states, they just don't seem to be very useful at all, even for people who are just beginning the game. So with all that being said, that was my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If there's anything in there that wasn't quite too clear or need more clarification on, feel free to ask me down below. I greatly appreciate it. Subscribe if you learned anything useful in this video, and I'll see you guys next time.